Hey everyone, I hope you're excited today because we're going to be talking more about the circle of fifths and specifically how we can use it to create music of our own. We're going to talk about how to use it to write chord progressions, how to modulate, all that fun stuff. And so let's get started. So we need to do a quick review on what the chord clock is, what it contains, and some of the key relationships that we can see there. So we're going to start with our chord clock here. I've already drawn it out for you. On the outside, we have all of the 12 major keys. Actually 15 because we have the enharmonic ones at the bottom, and we have all of the 15 minor keys in the middle. We can also use this chord clock to figure out key relationships. So we can look at C major and see that it is the relative major to A minor. And we can see that the parallel minor of C major is C minor and that it has 3 flats. It's over here on this spot in the circle. And we can use that to start making music. And that's where it gets really exciting. So first of all, why do we care about key relationships? Why do we care about where things are on the circle, or if they're related or if they're not, or if it's a parallel major or a relative minor? Who even cares about this stuff? Well, it becomes really useful when we start actually making music. This is where it gets fun. So I'm going to give you some examples today using Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. A simple melody, most of you probably know this. This is a very common melody, and we're going to use this to show you how these relationships work in actual music. So let me play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star for you, and we'll just do it in C major. So say I take that C major, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and I want to start modulating. I want to put it in a different key somewhere. Now we have some options. In the circle, anything that touches C major is going to be a closely related key, and those are going to make really nice modulations, really smooth, really easy to do because they share so many of the same notes. For example, I'm going to give you a modulation from C major to F major. C major and F major share all of the same notes except for B. In C major, B is just B natural, but in F major, we have B flat. So let me show you how we could possibly modulate and play this first in C major and then moving into F major. So you can see it's a very smooth modulation. It works really nicely because they're closely related keys. They're right next to each other on the circle of fifths. It just goes very well. I just have to somehow have a chord. In this case, I turned that C major triad into a C dominant chord that led me into F. Let me give you an example now of another modulation that uses closely related keys, the keys that are right next to each other on the circle of fifths. This time I'm going to take this C major Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and I'm going to put it into A minor. So A minor shares all of the same notes as C major, so this is going to be a really nice, easy modulation to do. Okay, so let's start with the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star in C major first. But instead of going right here to this one chord that I just finished on, I'm going to end up going to a 6 chord or an A minor triad. So watch this. And it's very smooth. It works out so great. That relative minor is awesome. Okay, now I can also use the parallel minor. So I could go something like this. I could start in C major again. But now I'm going to go into the minor. And how do I know it's the minor? Well, I'm just going to look at the circle of fifths. I can see that C minor has 3 flats, and so I'm just going to use those 3 flats as I play this. So again, Easy switch. All I had to do was throw in the 3 flats and now I'm in C minor. So it's really great to be able to see these key relationships on the circle and then being able to use that information to create music. It's so much fun. It's awesome. Now I'm going to go back to my circle for a minute here because I want to show you on the circle, if I draw a box around all of the closely related keys, and I think about these keys as chords instead of actual keys, I now have all of the keys that I need for the key of C major. In my box that I just drew, we have C major, that's going to be my tonic. I also have G major, that's going to be my dominant or fifth chord of the scale. I also have F, which would be the 4 chord or the predominant. And then below we have our minor chords in this key. So right below 1 or right below C, we're going to have A, that's going to be the 6th chord. Right below F, you're going to have the 2 chord. In this case, that's D minor. Over on the right side, we have E minor, and that's going to be our 3 chord. Now, the only chord we're missing is B diminished. That B diminished triad doesn't fit within this box. There are some people who build circle of fifths that have that B diminished on the very inside or on the very outside. But if you look at your circle, on the right side, just outside of the box, we have a B. So if we can just remember that that B does belong, but we have to change it into a diminished triad instead of a minor triad, then it works out fine. So I just leave it there. I just remember that's going to be my diminished triad. I don't bother putting it inside or outside the circle, but you could if you want. That's up to you. So I'm not going to talk a lot about function right now. You can check out my other video on function if you're interested in that. But just for a quick review, the 1 chord is our tonic chord. The 4 and the 2 are going to be predominant chords that want to lead into dominant chords. The dominant chords would be the 5 and the 7. Those are our 3 main functions: our tonic function, our predominant function, and our dominant function. We do have 2 other chords, the 6 and the 3. These chords are kind of ambiguous. They can be used in multiple ways. Both of them can substitute for a 1. Both of them can be used as predominants. And the 3 chord even sometimes can be like a really, really, really weak dominant. It doesn't work super well, but you can play around with it and see what you come up with. So if I'm in the key of C major, I'm going to start with C. That's going to be my first chord there. And then I probably want to go to some predominant function. So I could use a D minor. And then maybe I want to go to a dominant function like G. And then I could go back to my 1. That would be a very simple chord progression, but it works. It works well. I can make it a little bit more complicated by doing something like this. We could go from C to a 3 or an E minor. And then I could go to a predominant like a 4. And then I could go to like a D minor maybe. And then maybe I could even go to a 6. Because that's going to kind of feel like a 1 a little bit. It's kind of functioning as a tonic triad there. And then I could go maybe back to my C. And then I want to maybe go back to a 5 and then back to a 1. So you can come up with all of these cool chord progressions. So there you go. I've used all the chords except for the B diminished. And honestly, that B diminished doesn't get used a ton anyway. We don't really need it to come up with some really great chord progressions in whatever key we happen to be in. I hope this video has given you some new ideas on how to use the circle of fifths and how to write some of your own music. It really is an amazing tool, especially when you're using it to compose. So go out and do it. Find your guitar, find a piano, play out some chord progressions, figure out what works, what sounds good to you, and make some music. In the meantime, if you haven't checked out my other videos about the circle of fifths, be sure to check those out because there's a ton more you can do with this. And also, I'd love to see you subscribe for more music theory pro tips. We'll see ya.